Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. As always, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. I wanted to say thank you for coming back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing a movie that kind of surprised me when it came out in 4K last week, or a few weeks ago I should say. And I had to pick it up because this movie is definitely not a movie that I would have ever thought would have come out on 4K as soon as it did. But today I'm going to be talking about the movie that you can see behind me. This is Red Heat, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jim Belushi, a bunch of other actors really, but this is one of these movies that I'm a fan of. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm a big fan of Walter Hill. I love 48 Hours, Last Man Standing, The Warriors, Wild Bill, Johnny Handsome. I mean, these are some movies that I really, really love and enjoy. And this is one of the movies that he did in the 80s that is kind of like a weird, different version of 48 Hours, that kind of like buddy movie that he really helped originate. And I love this movie. This has always been a movie that I've been a big fan of. And it's not the greatest action movie. It's not even really the greatest, like, not even close to the greatest, like, buddy cop movie ever. But I really enjoyed this movie. It's the dry sense of humor the movie has without. It's kind of mean-spirited. But it really is kind of a time capsule now with the Soviet Russians, and I get a kick out of it. I really get a kick out of this movie, even though parts of it are pretty nasty. But it's a really good action movie, and the shootouts and action scenes that are in this movie are really well done. And I was really excited when they announced that this was going to come to 4K via Lionsgate. The movie, first of all, is a, and the box got really screwed up in shipping here, but I'll show you. It's 2 discs. It has the old Blu-ray that came out a few years ago and the new 4K disc. And the thing I really like about these Lionsgate 4Ks is the fact that they put all the special features on the 4K disc and then some. There are actually some new special features that are on this disc that I really liked. And I'll get into those a little later. But really, today I'm going to be reviewing the 4K disc and kind of comparing it to some other releases that have come before. Now, this movie just came out on Blu-ray just about 2 years ago, I think. 2-3 years ago, and it is a very good Blu-ray. I was actually very impressed with the Blu-ray when it came out. It looked fantastic. The last time I saw this movie was on VHS. I never owned it on DVD. Supposedly the DVD was also not so hot, the one that came out originally many years ago. But I did get the Blu-ray when it came out, and I was impressed. I liked that Blu-ray. And now we have a brand new 4K remaster, and it's a total remaster done by Studio Canal. They went back and really cleaned this movie up to the point where it looks completely different from the releases that came prior. And the big thing I want to talk about with this movie is the image quality in this. The picture quality on this disc is really kind of stunning. I was very surprised at how good this movie looked. Now, this movie came out, I think, in 1988, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1988. And if I can be completely honest with you, it kind of took me by surprise, because this movie, and I have the Voodoo screen because it comes with a digital copy, which I'll talk about later, but I don't have the Blu-ray, the 4K or the Blu-ray menu up because it actually has images. It's a moving menu like a lot of the Universal Blu-rays do, and I can't have it up because if I do, I'll get a copyright strike. But the 4K disc is really surprising. This movie looks very different from the Blu-ray, and in my opinion, it looks really good. Now again, I don't know what this movie looks like straight out of the 35mm negative. I have no idea what the movie originally looked like. All I know is what it looked like back on VHS versus the Blu-ray versus now. And I have to say, the picture quality is very impressive. the details you get with this 4K disc now are really surprising. And I mean down to the fact that you can see little details on Schwarzenegger's outfit. You can see, like, there's coloring in his bruises on his face when he gets beat up at one point. Jim Belushi's jacket that he wears through some of the movie, you can see, like, little fibers on it. It's very, very impressive. But the image is drastically different. Now, what do I mean by that? The image overall, during most of the movie, has this hazy quality to it. And again, the other version on Blu-ray that we have, that comes with this, by the way, so if you have the older Blu-ray and you get this, you can kind of get rid of that Blu-ray now because it's the same one that comes with the set. That Blu-ray, the images on that Blu-ray, the colors and stuff, were very saturated. And it's not a bad thing. But when you remaster a film and you add in that HDR, and this does have Dolby Vision, which I was very surprised of. This disc does have Dolby Vision HDR, which is what I watched it in. And that Dolby Vision really does provide very vibrant colors. And I'm talking about very, very vibrant. There's one scene where Arnold checks into the hotel of the bad guy that he's going after in this film, and there's a neon green light that shines in, and that green is unbelievable looking. It's like this almost like lime green color, and in the Blu-ray it doesn't really look the same shade. It's like a completely different shade of green now. And that happens all throughout. Reds are much more vibrant. Blues are definitely more vibrant. There's a lot of halogen bulbs in this film, and the halogen really does have a blue glow, whereas before it was just basically plain white. It's very interesting to note, but the film overall has a very natural color palette. Compared to before, it was very saturated. It actually reminded me a lot of the Scarface 4K disc that I reviewed recently. It's a much more natural palette, and in some cases this may aggravate people, because when you think 4K, you may think, oh, it's supposed to look more beautiful and more saturated. It doesn't always mean that. And honestly, I think with this disc we get a much more true to what the original filmmaker wanted in terms of a color palette. It's not as in your face. It's almost very withdrawn at times. Now, in the movie, they do make a point of saying that there's a lot of condensation in the air because they're in Chicago in the summertime, and it does get very humid. And through most of the film, you do notice there's a hazy quality. And I don't know if that's purposeful, if there was a filter added in certain scenes, but through most of the movie, it's almost like a hazy kind of picture. And I kind of like it, to be honest with you. It brings you into the film more. It makes you feel this nauseating humidity that is all throughout the film. It almost gives it like a sleazy quality to it, which I really liked. Now, not everybody is going to like it. I actually liked it. The movie also does have a pretty good amount of grain in the picture. Now, it's not extraordinary, it's not heavy grain, but there is a noticeable fine layer of grain throughout the film. It never gets in your face, but it's there. And again, this movie was shot on film, so it is going to be a grainy picture to a degree, but they did a good job of cleaning it up. They did not DNR the crap out of this movie. But it does look really, really beautiful at times, even though what you're watching may be kind of grimy and slimy. What they show is just an overall handling of the picture that Studio Canal did when they remastered it, and their handling of doing this remaster, I think, was really well done, and I really enjoyed it. Now, again, your mileage may vary, so you may want to check this one out before you go out and buy it. But I will say, in my opinion, I think it's a big step up from the Blu-ray in terms of picture quality in every way, shape, and form. I really loved how this movie looks like you're watching it straight out of the film negative. It looked incredible. I'm not going to say it's reference quality, but it's pretty close. It's really, really close. I was very impressed with this disc. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that this disc basically has the same 5.1 DTS master audio that was on the old Blu-ray, so there's no new Dolby Atmos or anything, but to be honest with you, the film doesn't really need it. It sounds great in the 5.1. The gunshots and sound effects really thud. They have a really good low end to them. I really enjoyed the way they did that sound mix in this. And again, I like it because it works for the film. The audio overall is very crisp and clear. Dialogue is very clear. And I had no complaints about the audio, even though it is basically the same mix that we had from the older Blu-ray. The other big thing that I like about this disc is the fact that there are a whole bunch of special features on it. Most of them are carried over from the older Blu-ray, but there is a great special feature called Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Man Who Raised Hollywood, and it has interviews with all different filmmakers, writers, actors, journalists, critics, everybody you can imagine. And I was very impressed with that little documentary. It was very well done. Some of it is in different languages, but they subtitle it. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice little add-on for this disc. The only thing I think is a little bit of a complaint for me, honestly, is the fact that this disc, when you buy this disc, it comes with the old Blu-ray, which is fine, even though the picture quality is very different. The digital copy, Lionsgate has this thing where they are not playing nice with movies, movies anywhere, and movies everywhere, whatever the heck the name of that service is. And when you get the digital copy for this, if you redeem it, it's just a standard HD copy of the film, which is kind of lousy in my opinion. I think we've gotten past that. Lionsgate, for some reason, will not join on, and their digital copies are not always up to standard. So if you're going to get this, get it for the physical disc. If you're going to buy it on digital, just buy it on whatever digital store you want to use, because you're not going to get the same level of picture quality as you get with the 4K disc. So anyway, overall, I really love this movie. I'm a little biased in this review because I actually really enjoy this movie. Again, it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I like it. Again, if you've never seen this movie, I recommend going out and getting this because I think it's a good time. It's kind of one of those Walter Hill classics for me that I can go back and rewatch over and over again and never get sick of it. I like this movie. Again, Arnold's Russian accent is a little questionable, but I get a kick out of it. Jim Belushi has some really funny lines in this movie. And I liked it, man. For about, I think this was about $15, $16 when I got it on Amazon. And for that, it's definitely worth it. For a complete remaster of the film, I can't say enough. I thought it was great. But until next time, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. I want to say thank you for coming back to the channel. If you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, so long.